Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Beach Energy Limited Prospective Investors Forum. My name is Michelle O'Kane and I am part of the finance team and have been with the company several years. I am excited to be here today to present to you as future investors with Beach Energy Limited. Over the next 15 minutes or so, the following topics will be discussed to enable you to make an informed decision on choosing to invest with us. Everyone is welcome to ask questions as the presentation progresses. The topics to be covered today include an introduction to Beach Energy Limited, a review of financial statements, an overview of key assets, liabilities, equity classes, income and expenses, accounting conventions, and then lastly financial performance and a ratio analysis. A brief introduction to Beach Energy Limited, which will be referred to as Beach throughout this presentation. Our history. Beach was established in the early 1960s by the late Dr. Reg Brigg, a highly regarded Australian oilman, geologist, explorer and conservationist. Beach grew steadily from the 1960s through to the early 1980s, with a broad range of exploration and production tenements, cash reserves, plus a long-term revenue base from its oil and gas discoveries. Exploration in the Otway Basin of southeastern Australia resulted in significant discoveries of commercial gas in 1979. In the early 1980s, it made oil discoveries in southwestern Queensland. In the mid-1980s, a takeover occurred by the Independent Resources Group that resulted in a severe depletion of our cash and assets. Upon election of a new board in the 1990s, Beach returned its focus to traditional oil and gas exploration and now has a comprehensive and exciting portfolio of both exploration and production tenements. Today, Beach operates in the petroleum and natural gas extraction sector with its head office located in South Australia and employs around 214 people. The organisation is engaged in oil and gas exploration, development and production of hydrocarbons, as well as investing in the resources industry. Beach has several major operational areas in Australia and New Zealand, as well as holding gas sale contracts spread across energy retailers and industrial users in Australia. We are also Australia's largest onshore oil producer. Beach has interests in more than 450 exploration and production tenements located in Australia and New Zealand. As can be seen on this map, the major operational areas consist of the Cooper and Eromanga Basin segment, which incorporates unconventional gas, conventional gas and conventional oil. We have the Bonaparte Basin, the Browse Basin, Otway Basin and 2 locations in New Zealand. A little more about who we are. Our structure and our size, vision, purpose and strategy is what we'll go through now. Our board consists of 7 directors. We have a Chief Executive Officer who reports to the board and they are supported by 7 executive managers. We have a functional structure incorporating finance, operations, exploration and development, general counsel, commercial, corporate development and strategy and human resources. Beach is the parent company and we have a further 11 associated companies. Our annual sales are approximately US $577 million and a market value of around $1.9 billion. Our vision is to deliver sustainable growth and shareholder value, and our 4 core strategies are optimising our operations in the Cooper Basin, building a complementary gas business in the East Coast basins, pursuing compatible growth opportunities and maintaining financial strength. In the next section, we'll be reviewing the key financial statements for Beach to provide you information and context to assist you in determining if Beach is an appropriate investment for you. We will be looking at the consolidated statement of financial position, or the balance sheet, the consolidated statement of profit and loss and other comprehensive, also known as the income statement. We'll also have a look at the consolidated statement of cash flows, or the cash flow statement. The purpose of financial statements is to provide a summary of accounting transactions by Beach to enable different economic decisions to be made, such as whether to buy or hold or sell equity investments, to assess management stewardship and accountability, to assess Beach's ability to pay employees, to assess Beach's ability to repay loans and pay suppliers, to assess Beach's ability to pay dividends. The balance sheet provides a snapshot of the financial status of Beach at a particular point in time. The accounting equation is fundamental to the balance sheet. That is, assets equal liabilities plus owner's equity, which we'll have a look at shortly. The income statement summarises Beach's revenues and expenses for a period of time, thus identifying if Beach has made a profit or loss, whereas the cash flow statement reports the cash receipts and cash payments for Beach, also for a period of time. For those who've not had an opportunity to network during the forum proceedings, we have a diverse range of delegates attending today who are relevant stakeholders to Beach. Our internal stakeholders include management and employees. Management use the statements to make decisions on when to grow the business or sell assets, whereas employees are likely to review statements to ensure ongoing employment or payment of wages and bonuses. We also have a significant number of external stakeholders present who each have specific needs in relation to Beach's financial statements. Investors provide much of Beach's capital and will be looking at our profitability, debt holdings and ability to pay dividends, whereas lenders need information to determine if they will lend to Beach by evaluating our assets and liabilities. Suppliers look at our ability to pay them timely, such as when purchasing plant and equipment. Customer needs are around Beach's ability to continue supplying our gas products and hydrocarbons. Government and relevant authorities are interested in Beach's payment of royalties and compliance to legislation. Specifically, the external stakeholders here include representatives from our subsidiary companies, representatives from our top 20 shareholders. We have banking representatives, both existing and prospective lenders. A number of existing suppliers are here, as well as prospective suppliers for upcoming projects. We have representatives from our major retail and industrial customers. We have representatives from the South Australian Government and other government authorities relating to safety, environment permits, land access and native title. Our auditors are here. And lastly, members of the general public, including local communities where Beach operate. In this topic, I will be discussing the key assets, liabilities, equity classes, incomes and expenses, which can impact Beach's reported position and performance. Firstly, we'll go through current assets, currently valued at $521.9 million. This consists of cash and cash equivalents, so cash at bank and term deposits. We have receivables consisting of gas sales contracts, industrial users and trade debtors, and we have inventories that includes drilling and maintenance stocks and petroleum products. Our non-current assets currently valued at $1,371.2 million. This consists of property, plant and equipment, so our land and production facilities, field and other equipment. We have petroleum assets, and that also includes those under construction. We have exploration and evaluation assets. We have deferred tax assets. Our total assets is $1,893.1 million. Next, we'll go through liabilities and equity classes for Beach. Our current liabilities is valued at $126.2 million. This consists of payables, provisions and tax liabilities. Our non-current liabilities, valued at $364.9 million, consists of provisions, so this is for restoration and rehabilitation costs associated with our exploration activities and our borrowings or bank debt. Our equity is valued at $1,402 million. This is contributed equity and includes shares issued throughout the year, our reserves and retained earnings and accumulated losses. Total liabilities plus equity equals $1,893.1 million. Now to discuss incomes and expenses. Incomes for Beach are derived from our sales revenues, our crude oil, gas and gas liquids, other revenue, other income, of which come from the sale of a subsidiary, and interest income. Expenses are resulting from cost of sales, so operating costs, royalties, depreciation, and other expenses including impairment on property, plant and equipment, as well as employee benefits and finance expenses. The year ended 30th of June 2017, our total comprehensive income after tax was $398.7 million. In the second last topic, I'll briefly outline how measurement of Beach's key assets are influenced by underlying accounting conventions and by managerial impact. The framework and concepts. Accountants are guided by principles known as the Generally Accepted Accounting Principles, or GAAP. Standards exist for accountants, such as the framework for the preparation of presentation of financial statements. This framework includes the following concepts: that a business is a going concern, that information in financial statements is of relevance and faithful representation that includes relevance to the decision maker, predictive value so users can use the information, confirmatory value information can confirm or change existing expectations, faithful representation should capture the essence of the transaction, that is, be comparable, consistent, verifiable and timely. That information in statements is of material value, that is, omission of insignificant information is justified. Finally, the concept of conservatism convention, that is, selecting the method of measurement that yields the gloomiest results. However, there are advantages and disadvantages with these principles, but it seems the advantages of the framework appear to outweigh the disadvantages. A few of the advantages include reduction in variation in the way financial statements are prepared, details what should be disclosed to increase the quality of information, companies are likely to disclose more information about their activities, and helps protect investors and also increases public confidence. Some of the disadvantages are seen as a perceived lack of flexibility, that companies may incur higher costs, may be considered a box-ticking exercise, and that statements may contain too much information. Measurement of key assets. Notes to the financial statements provides the information that is material and relevant to the operation, financial position or performance of the company. Management has had to make key judgments, estimates and assumptions about future events that affects assets and liabilities, income and expense, specifically relating to the key assets of Beach. A couple of examples for consideration. Cash and cash equivalents. Investments with fixed maturities are stated at amortised costs using the effective interest rate method, where it is the company's intention to hold until maturity. Receivables are not measured at fair value, and inventories are stated at the lower of cost and net realisable value. In the final topic, an analysis of Beach's financial performance and position will be discussed. We will be looking at a number of common ratios relating to profitability, liquidity, solvency and efficiency, as well as trends and a comparison with the industry and the competitor. Profitability, as the name suggests, measures Beach's ability to generate a profit. So we'll be taking a look at gross margin, operating margin and net profit margin. Liquidity is a measure of how well Beach is able to pay down short-term debts, so the current ratio and the quick or acid test ratio will be reviewed. Solvency looks at Beach's ability to pay down long-term debt. The total debt to equity ratio is featured. Lastly, efficiency assesses how well Beach manages their assets and liabilities. So we'll look at receivables turnover, inventory turnover, return on assets and return on equity. Take a look at the 5-year trends for Beach for these ratios. Profitability. For 2017, Beach's gross margin of 37.18% has improved from 2016 and 15, indicative of Beach being more efficient in the production and distribution of their product. However, it is not as high as 2014 and 13. The operating margin of 39.43% is a significant turnaround from 2016 and 15 also, where Beach has reduced its operating expenses. 2016 and 15 occurred losses due to impairment of petroleum assets. The net profit margin of 59.68% is a similar story, with a tremendous turnaround achieved compared to 2016 and 15 with the impairment of petroleum assets. Liquidity. Beach's current ratio is excellent at 4.1 and has improved over the past few years. We are in a strong position with 4 times as many current assets to current liabilities to service short-term debt. Similarly, the quick asset or asset test ratio is in a strong position of 3.68, again surpassing previous years. Solvency. Beach's debt-to-equity ratio reflects a robust position for us to be in and has been steady for the past few years, only slightly increasing from 2014 and 13. Efficiency. The receivables turnover is quite solid, having improved from the past 2 years, although not as high as 2014. Beach has established good policies around the management of receivables. Inventory turnover has continued to improve over the past 5 years, although a slight decrease was noted in 2016 compared to 2015. We continue to strive to manage our inventory efficiently. Management effectiveness. In 2017, this resulted in an excellent turnaround from 2016 and the 2015 years for Beach's return on assets. As mentioned earlier, the impairment write-downs for petroleum assets impacted this result. Return on equity is also in an excellent position, having turned around also in 2016 and 15. The year end, June 30, 2017, has been an excellent year for Beach and puts the company in a very strong position for the coming years. Our last analysis is a comparison of Beach's performance against the industry and sector we operate in, as well as against the competitor using the same ratios. Beach operates in the oil and gas extraction industry, with the sector being energy. Woodside Petroleum also operates in the same industry and sector, so is a suitable company for comparison. Profitability. Beach's gross margin is much lower than Woodside and the industry standard. However, our sector, Beach, is tracking good. The operating margin exceeds our competitor and is much higher than the current industry and sector percentage. Net profit margin also exceeds the competition, the industry and the sector percentage. Beach is managing expenses more tightly than Woodside, who have a high gross margin but seem to also have high expenses, resulting in a lower net profit margin compared to Beach. Liquidity. For both ratios, Beach is in an excellent position compared to Woodside, the industry and sector. Solvency. Beach is performing well in this area compared to Woodside, the industry and sector also. Efficiency. Beach is not meeting the industry nor sector standard for receivables turnover, so have an opportunity to improve in this area by continuing to focus on payment collection. On the other hand, Woodside exceed the industry standard but are performing lower than the sector. For inventory turnover, Beach is performing better than Woodside, however still not meeting the industry nor sector standard. We will continue to improve on our inventory management. Management effectiveness. We can see that Beach is performing exceptionally well compared to the competitor as well as the industry and sector standards. Woodside are performing slightly above the standard for both the industry and sector. Overall, in summary, Beach is in a very favourable position compared to Woodside, the industry and sector, exceeding the standard in many areas. Ladies and gentlemen, we have reached the end of this presentation, and just to recap what we have covered. We've looked at Beach's origins, an overview of our key financial statements. We've looked at our assets, liabilities, equity, incomes and expenses. We've looked at applicable accounting conventions. And lastly, an analysis of Beach's financial performance and position. I will now take a few questions if there are any outstanding. It seems there are no further questions, so I thank everyone for attending this session and trust you have gained a solid understanding of Beach's financial position such that you can invest in our company.